Okay. All right, I think we have all the board members available.
Hold on just 1 second.
Let's go
I don't see the news feed on the YouTube channel. Jessica, do you see it? Okay, it's
There you go.
it's taking a minute. Hang
There
on
it
just
is.
a second.
Okay.
It's still trying to load.
My computer says we're live on YouTube.
Looks good.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 9 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Shayna, could you do a roll call, please?
Jenny Moore,
Present.
Pilar Rodriguez,
Present. Present.
Nathan Douglas,
Nathan Douglas, present.
Matt Glaves,
Present.
Edward Keenan,
Present.
Jerry Romero,
Here.
Rodney Riles,
Here.
Stephanie Wagner,
Here.
Courtney Bechtel. Madam Chair, 8 board members are present and 1 is absent.
All right, thank you very much. We do have a quorum. Nice. And just for clarification,
Did we lose the chair?
Yeah, she's having some internet issues.
You might suggest she uses the phone number to call in, because that way it's on cell, not Wi-Fi. We'll still be able to see her face, even if it cuts out, but we'll be able to hear her.
Madam Chair, you're on mute.
okay, I apologize. I am having, since this winter storm has frozen my computer issues. Okay, do we have an invitation for public comment?
No, ma'am.
Nobody? Okay, no request for public comment. Action item number 3, approval for minutes. I hope everybody's had time to look over it. Is there any discussion for changes, or has everybody had a chance to read it? Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes from last meeting? January 21st meeting.
This is Jerry. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jerry. Can I get a second? Second by Matt Glaves. Shayna, could you call for a vote, please? Or
If you're in favor of the motion, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. Pilar Rodriguez,
Aye.
Nathan Douglas,
Nathan Douglas, aye.
Matt Glaves,
Aye.
Ed Keenan,
Aye.
Jerry Romero,
Aye.
Rodney Riles,
Aye.
and Stephanie Wagner.
Aye.
Madam Chair, 7 board members are in favor of the motion and 0 are opposed.
We lost her again.
I apologize. I am working on this as fast as I can to get this straight. I missed the full roll call. Was there?
So Jenny,
Yes,
while
ma'am.
you can hear us, if you go to the Zoom email invite, you'll see a phone number. You can actually call in order to You can change your audio to be a cell phone. We'll still see your face, but your audio will come in through cell versus Wi-Fi.
Got it. Okay. Can you hear me now?
So far.
All right. What was the call for minutes?
7 board members in favor of the motion and 0 opposed.
Perfect. Motion carries. Thank you. We're going to move at this point out of agenda order and go to agenda item number 7. Rebecca
Yes.
is with. If you could explain the purpose of the report that you're going to present,
Sure.
which is the audited financial statement presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have 4 reports that I'll go over briefly. We have 2 audit opinions that we issued. We have a report to the board, which is required communications, and then we have the GASB 68 pension allocation report. So I'll go over all of those briefly. Let me go ahead and share my screen, which I think would be the easiest thing. Okay. Can you all see my screen that has a letter dated December 18th?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the first required communications I'll go over is the management letter to the board. Let me introduce myself really quick too. I'm Rebecca Goldstein. I'm the audit partner with Weaver, your external auditor. We did issue the audit on your audited financials dated December 18th. So this letter is just our required communications. It goes over our responsibility in relation to the financial statement audit. So we letter that was dated September, and our responsibility was to form and express an opinion on whether the financial statements have been prepared by management is correct in all material aspects. I just got to notice that my internet's unstable. So if I cut out, please go like this. So our responsibility is plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance. So that means we don't look at every single transaction, but we do have a materiality that we look at. Scrolling down into this paragraph right here, we do consider internal controls in our process. So we do look at internal controls in terms of, let's say, new retirees coming on, the controls over the contributions process, all of those big processes, particularly in the pension fund. We do look at that. We don't express an opinion on it, but we look at controls, segregation of duties, management review, that type of thing. So if there were any issues there, we would bring that to light to the board, which we didn't have any of those as well. We are responsible for communicating any other significant matters. We did have one issue that we consider a significant deficiency in internal control, and that's in a separate letter. So I will go over that here in a minute. Plan, scope, and timing of the audit. We come in, we did a lot remotely this year, but we do come in when the AFR is being put together with Wayne and his group. We do a lot of our work in October, November timeframe. And once the AFR gets issued, we issue our audit opinion on the standalone financial statements about a month later. Really the difference between your AFR that goes to the comptroller and the report that has our opinion in it, there's a couple of differences. Ours is, the standalone report with our opinion has 2019 information in it as well, so it has comparative information in it. And there's also some required pension footnotes and required supplemental information in relation to pension. So there's a couple of additional items in the audited AFR as opposed to the AFR that goes to the comptroller. As far as compliance with ethics and independence, we are independent of TESRS. Significant accounting policies right here. Your significant policies are described in note 1. There was no initial application of anything new this year, so nothing to talk about there. When we look at significant estimates, we always have to let the board know if there are estimates in your financials. Almost all financial estimates. When you look at your financial statements, really you have a fair value, you have a big investment dollar, right? And and we call it a management estimates, but really you rely on your investment managers to provide the fair market value of those investments. So we do talk about there's assumed $1 per share in the custodial bank short-term investment fund, which is typical. You also have the valuation of the commingled fund and the real estate fund. We consider those what we call alternative investments. Those, we don't get the underlying investments of those, but we do get the financial statements for that Invesco Trust Company and the prime property. We get audited financial statements for those, and we get confirmations from those to say, here's our audited financial statements. Here is TESRS percentage of the ownership of that fund. And so we do a lot of test work around any type of big investments that we can't get the underlying investments for and value ourselves. So we didn't find any problems with those. There are also actuarial studies that contain estimates and assumptions that go into the pension information. So that is pretty standard for a pension fund as well. So those are what's considered your significant estimates. As far as financial statement disclosures, we do draw your attention to the pension disclosure in note 11 that has some important information regarding actuarial assumptions and data associated with the funded status of the system. And then the disclosure evaluation methods and credit risk and interest rate risk are in note 3. And so those are kind of what we consider your significant disclosures, if you will. Moving on, there were no significant difficulties with management. Uncorrected and corrected misstatements. We did have one misstatement that we identified that we passed on for last year that's included in what we call the significant deficiency. So I'll talk about that in a minute in a separate letter. We didn't have any disagreements with management. We do ask management to sign a representation letter at the end of the audit, which they did sign. No other consultations with accountants that we're aware of. No other significant matters. We do offer different levels of assurance on your, what we call your RSI, your required supplementary information, and your other supplemental information. So all that means is your core financial statements or your financial statements themselves and the notes. And then you have other information like your MD&A, your pension schedules in the back. And so and then you have like your supplemental information, like your schedule of investment expenses and things like that. So there's different levels of assurance. We don't audit all of that information like we do the core financial information, but we do get other levels of assurance on them. We do make sure that all that information is still information that flows into the audited numbers. So we still look at it. We just don't give the same level of assurance, if that makes sense. And then going down, and that's really all that says right there. So that's my required communications. I'm going to go into now. Here is did y'all see the letter that said independent auditors report on internal control over government audits? Do y'all all see that? Okay, thank you. So this is one of the 2 audit opinions that we issue. This one actually doesn't go in the report itself, but this one does talk about, because you are a government entity, right? We do issue what we call a generally accepted government auditing standards opinion. So we look at internal controls. Like I said, it goes over the definitions of what's considered a deficiency in internal control and a material weakness. This is where we did have something that we considered a significant deficiency. I know we talked with management, Wayne and Kevin and Stephen, who we all worked on the financial statements. We did identify an error. Last year was actually, when we were looking at payroll this year, it was realized that there was only 11 months of payroll, and this is not in the pension fund, general fund. So there was an additional month of payroll that was in 2020 that wasn't in 2019. Not considered to be material to the financial statements. So nothing like that. There's no material weakness, no material non-compliance. It's just something that we bring to your attention. We talked about it with management. And it had to do with, when trying to reconcile USAS with MIP and the timing of that, that's how that error came about. So again, we've already hashed it out, if you will, with Wayne and Kevin when he was there, and talked about how, that process can be tighter next year going forward. But again, You still get a clean opinion. It's just something that we bring to the attention of management and the board was an error that we found. This talks about compliance and other matters. Just means that when we give a generally accepted auditing standards opinion, that we do look at compliance as well. So we looked at, for you all, it means that we looked at your investment policy, anything like that, that we would have to look at in terms of compliance. We didn't have any problems with that either. Okay, that's your GAGAS opinion, if you will. And then this opinion that I'm bringing up right now, this is the actual opinion that has independent auditors report and on the front. This is the opinion that is in your actual audited financials that I know you all have looked at. This is a clean opinion, so it's in the front of your report. This is the actual opinion that we issued. Again, it just goes over what I've already talked about: management's responsibility, auditor's responsibility, our opinions. It does have 2 emphasis of matter paragraphs. It talks about the fund financial statements. This is just a requirement right here that says that TESRS is a part of the state of Texas, but that it doesn't, but the opinion in the financial statements is alone. It's not the state as a whole. And then we do point out the investments with values that are not readily determinable. Like I mentioned before, those alternative investments where we couldn't get the underlying investment like a real estate fund, but we do alternative procedure funds are audited. We audited financial statements. So we got comfortable with the investment amounts for TESRS for those, but we do always point that out if there's any investments like that. And then again, it talks about the required supplementary information and the other information and just the different levels of assurance that we give on those that aren't part of the core financial statements. Okay. Any questions so far? I just have one more document to go over. Okay. And then the last report that we issued that comes a little later is, let's see, is the report on pension information. You can see that this report is dated, we actually issued this after the audited financial statements, so it is dated in February, earlier this month. Really, this opinion right here is specifically on the schedule. So if you look at this schedule, we issue this really for your member departments, so they can put the unfunded liability for TESRS on their books if it's material to them. So all this is a schedule of contributions for all of your member departments and their corresponding allocation percentage. So this is a report that TESRS is required because of GASB 68 to issue, that then the member departments can then use for their audited financial statements for next year. And so again, you can see all the departments, their contributions and their allocated percentages there. And again, this was a clean opinion. No problems on this. It actually rolls into some of the audit work that we already do. We already audit the contributions themselves. So this again is a separate report for themselves. And that is all of my required communications. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
No questions. Well presented. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I do have to head out to get on another Zoom call. So I appreciate everyone's time and putting me first. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Okay, having said that, let's move back to agenda item number 4, which is the consent agenda. Shirley?
Yeah, this is our first effort at a consent agenda. This will be items that are generally reviewed, and then if there's an item in the list on the consent agenda, then if the board chooses, you can discuss it separately. In this agenda, we have my report, which includes a little information about the session and our compliance work that we're doing with the departments. And there's also a letter recommending an amendment for Jackson Walker to get us through the rest of the fiscal year. that they do an awful lot of work with us, of course, for our plan status and also with legislative matters. We'll probably be using them this summer for some rule review and being sure that our rules maintain that plan status.
Okay. All the agenda items are up for approval, correct?
Within that consent agenda.
Yes. You want to go ahead and go through that, those items?
Well, it was
Your executive director.
the ED report. Let me find my stuff. I wanted to give y'all, there was a couple of things that obviously that I think of that are significant that we've had the Senate Finance Committee meeting on the 9th. We were unable to attend because we had staff under quarantine due to some COVID exposure, but they took our written testimony that we provided. John Posey from the LBB spoke. One thing that occurred with the LBB is that there's an additional, Wayne, you might confirm, it's an additional $20,000 that is coming back into the general revenue budget that had to do with the reductions from last summer. And John Posey from the LBB actually found it and said it was like we gave too much. So maybe that's the only way I know to describe it. Maybe it's a little bit of a rebate. So we'll take it. The House Committee on Appropriations is on Monday, and Wayne and I will be attending. Pensions and investments haven't been scheduled. There's a couple of bills that have to do with the Pension Review Board that I'll be reviewing with Wayne and probably Jessica. She tracks a lot of our bills, and we want to stay on top of what's happening with PRB. With regard to the Senate Joint Resolution 22, if y'all remember, that was the joint resolution that calls for an amendment to the Texas Constitution for state funds to not be allocated for liability and debt to a local retirement system. We are considered a local retirement system under the definition that's within the section referenced in the bill in the Texas Constitution, by the nature that we have member departments, member governing entities that choose to join and are not required to join. We did the last meeting. We discussed this, and we're going to instructed staff to send a letter to the sponsors of the bill, which I did, and we did get a response. I didn't have time to get it in the report today, but it was very favorable. It was reviewed. This was with Senator Huffman's office, and said it is not the intent of the joint resolution to interfere with the Texas Emergency Services Retirement System and the state funding that we receive under the government code. And that it was basically what we had discussed. He said, we'll either address it in legislative intent or amend the language in the joint resolution. So I was very pleased to get that news. It was, and he's been very, he sent me another email about just to give us some more assurance about, I think, about that intent. So I feel really good about that. Scott's been doing a lot of work with the compliance project and working with non-compliant local boards. This has been a really busy month for everybody, and for a lot of our departments, they've been busy not only with their own issues, as some of you can probably tell us your stories about this winter storm. personally, but they've also, our departments also have dealt with everything else, the traffic, the outages, the, water pipes, everything that hit Texas this last week. And so because of that, I think that our work will continue. We haven't had the chance really to make as much progress, I think, in terms of getting through the departments that we had on our list, but we're well into it, and we've had some really good success with the local boards getting back in shape and with the enrollment of members that should have been enrolled. So I thought that's a positive outcome, of course. The last slide in my presentation has that list of departments that we're going to be, we'd mentioned to you, I think in December, we were going to be working with, and kind of a status report on where they are with those compliance items. The second piece that's in the consent agenda, and there's a letter about this amendment for Jackson Walker, that I think that's, like I mentioned earlier, that has to do with, it's an amendment for $25,000 additional funding to get us through till the end of the year, to help us through the session. And anything that comes up that is related to our pension system, it's very important to have Chuck and Elisa there to give some guidance on the impact of that legislation to our plan. Also, we'll be doing a rule review where there's a requirement for a 4-year rule review that we need to do. And again, they help us tremendously with rule and for us to be sure that we're in keeping with our plan status. And that's we're seeking approval for that amendment.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented with no modifications.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Shirley. Because of the issues that I'm having with my computer and my internet, I'm going to have to turn this meeting over to Pilar at this time.
Okay.
Pilar, you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'll still be here, but I just,
Yeah.
it's too spotty. It's too spotty for a decent meeting.
So, okay, so we've got a motion, a second. All those in favor signify by aye, and I guess Shayna, can you take a roll call?
Pilar Rodriguez,
Aye.
Nathan Douglas,
Nathan Douglas, aye.
Matt Claves,
Aye.
Ed Keenan,
Aye.
Jerry Romero, I didn't catch that, Mr. Romero.
Aye.
Okay, great. Rodney Riles,
Aye.
Stephanie Wagner.
Hi.
7 board members are in favor of the motion and 0 are opposed.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda, item 5, is actuarial audit firm presentations. Shirley, can you walk us through that?
Yes, we have two top ranked offers from our request for proposal that was conducted. The evaluation committee, Ed, Shayna, and me, we went through the proposals, and Ed, if you would go ahead and introduce the presentations.
Okay. We reviewed 3, and we decided on Gabriel, Roeder, and Smith and Bolton Partners to present to the board their qualifications. So I guess at this time, According to the agenda, Gabriel, Roder, and Smith will be the first to present.
And Scott or Jessica, can you admit their presenters into the Zoom meeting? Mr. Falls, are you then going to be the person presenting for GRS?
I am. Yes, thank you for having me this morning. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Do you need to share your screen? Are you going to be presenting?
Yes, I believe I'm going to share my screen just here in just a second.
Okay.
I just ready?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, my name.
Do you have capability to share your screen?
I do. I will here in just a second.
Great.
I just wanted to say good morning. My name is Ryan Falls. I'm from the Dallas office of GRS. And I really just wanted to start off just by saying I hope you and your families and all of your member cities and departments are recovering after that crazy storm last week. I'm glad we had the opportunity to reschedule and talk about it this week, but the members of our team certainly weren't in a position to be able to log on and visit with you last week about that. So we're excited to be here this week. Unfortunately, some of the other members of my team were not able to be here on this rescheduled date. So y'all are stuck with me for the next 10 minutes, but looking forward to visiting with you a little bit about GRS and the actual audit project y'all have in front of you. So I am now going to share my screen. And of course, I'm not on slide 1, so let me back up here. So as I mentioned, Janie was planning to join me last week, but she wasn't able to make this date. With that, I want to briefly say that the GRS, we're the largest provider of rural services to public pension funds across the country. We've worked in just about every state in the nation, 36 different statewide retirement systems across the country, even 25 actual audits in this context over the last about 5 years. And and what that means to you is that if there's a benefit structure or funding arrangement out there somewhere in the country, we've most likely worked on it, advised on it, and been a part of the process. So, but what's most likely important to you all, our experience in the state of Texas, we serve as the consulting actuary to some of the largest funds in the state, similar to how Rudd & Wisdom serves you all as your consulting actuary. We work with the Texas Municipal Retirement System, the state employees, the state teachers, as well as the municipal funds in some of the biggest cities across the state, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. And something else we do, some of you might run across this in your interactions with the city, we do retiree medical evaluations for hundreds of cities across the state. We have a contract where we help. It's called OPEB. If you've seen that, some of your member cities like League City and Friendswood, we work with the city to help them with some of their retiree medical liabilities and their reporting. And on the flip side of that, we also provide actual services with, the state has an audit requirement, as I'm sure you all know. We've done actual audits for the Texas County and District, TCDRS, firefighter plans in Corpus Christi, Irving, City of Lubbock, and a few other plans across the state. The ones that are bold in red there, I just want to point out, those are actually Rudd & Wisdom clients. Mark's the actuary for those as well. So we do have some familiarity with Rudd & Wisdom and how their processes and how they approach actual evaluations. And just kind of what all this means is we're very familiar with Texas. We work closely with the PRB and with the LBB. And I would say during legislative sessions, we're in Austin all the time. This one obviously is quite a different legislative session with COVID and everything else going on. So I don't know how often we'll be down there this session, but in a normal year, we'd be in Austin interacting with legislators and agencies supporting our clients. We have assigned, tried to put together a team. All these folks have set aside the next 6 weeks in their schedule because we have laid out a pretty aggressive timeline. We're You asked for a pretty aggressive timeline, 6 weeks from the start of the project to get draft report ready. That's certainly doable, but we want to make sure we had a big team ready to jump on this and get started right away. So we'll have a couple of our analysts jump on the census data and start to dig through that and do an assessment of that. Janie, who's going to join me today, she's our coding guru and our benefits guru. So she's going to get in and start replicating liabilities and making sure we think all the liabilities are reasonable. At the same time, Joe and I will dive into the experience study and the assumptions and methods and kind of those types of moving parts. So we'll have a team effort to jump on top of this project as soon as we've had the good fortune to be awarded this project. We've already reviewed the contract that you released in the RFP. We don't have any issues with that. So we really, from day one, should be able to hit the ground running. And the process will involve a lot of communication with staff. Anyone that wants an update on the process, there won't be any surprises when we get down to the end. Anything we find or questions we have, we'll be working with staff directly. Rudd and Wisdom, Mark, everyone will know the things that we're looking at and talking about, and we'll be seeking feedback along the way. So when you get the draft report, when the board hears about it, there won't be any surprises, and we'll certainly be open to any feedback that staff has and Rudd and Wisdom has on a draft report to make sure that it's the best possible work product for you all. But just wanted to spend the last just couple of minutes quickly talking about my perspective on actuarial audits. Don't tell my clients this, the ones I listed earlier in the presentation, but audits are actually my favorite thing to do. Annual actuarial evaluations, it's the same. It can sometimes be the same thing year in and year out, but actuarial audits to me are really interesting to be able to look at a new retirement system, dig in, learn about their benefits and their funding structures. And you all certainly have a very unique funding structure with the way your member cities contribute and the way the state contributes to make sure you're always actuarially sound. But then also to see how other actuaries approach different things. Actuarial audits actuarial evaluations in general are very, there's a lot of moving parts, can be a lot of complex math and assumptions and methods. There's a lot that goes into it, and no two actuaries are going to approach the same problem exactly the same way. So it's fun to see another actuary like Rudd and Wisdom and how they approach your plan and do different things. So maybe it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I really enjoy actuarial audits and just kind of getting just a new project and seeing some new perspectives. But what I wanted the other thing is when you think about like a financial audit and there's a finding in the report, that's usually kind of a red flag and that's a problem. But that's not always the same way. That's not always the case with an actuarial audit. Just because of how complex they are. It's most likely, I don't expect to find any issues with Rudd and Wisdom's, with the math, with the way they calculate the liability. I expect everything to be reasonable. Really the best case scenario when we get into this is that when we have a conversation in a couple months with the board, that we have a productive conversation about just some new, fresh perspectives on how Rudd and Wisdom and how you all approach your actuarial evaluation. One answer is not right, one answer is not wrong, but the best actuarial audits that I've been a part of are ones where we just have a really good conversation in the process about what you all are doing and maybe some ways to enhance that process and make it just a little bit better. So that's my goal as we enter into this. And you shouldn't be afraid if there's some recommendations or some, try not to use the word findings, but there will be some feedback with the audit, but the goal of most of that feedback will be just to improve the process, make things better, and just enhance it for you, your member cities and agencies and the board, just to help. So with that, I want to try to be timely and not go over my time. The last slide really is just a kind of a recap of everything we've talked about. So if we have any time left, I'd love to answer any questions you might have about our proposal and our firm and our approach to this project.
So are there any questions from the board for Mr. Falls? No. There being none, Mr. Falls, thank you very much for your presentation.
Absolutely. You all have a great day.
Yeah. Shirley, we've got the next presenter, Bolton Partners.
Yes, and I'm not, Jessica or Scott, can you bring them in? think we have Tom Vicente and Ann Sterner. And do we have another joining you?
Yes, Alan Klein as well.
Okay, Tom, I guess I'll ask you to introduce your team and begin your presentation.
Great. Actually, going to have Ann take the first steps there. Ann?
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to share our presentation. Hopefully I successfully did that. We're getting good at that. So good morning, everyone. We're pleased to be here with you today. Thank you for providing Bolton with the opportunity to conduct an actuarial audit of the Texas Emergency Services Retirement System. Bolton has conducted many actuarial audits, which we will discuss in our presentation. Audits are an important governance tool for plan sponsors, which we believe require the skills and expertise of our most experienced actuaries. Our audit team is comprised of our most senior actuaries, and we will be supported by a technically skilled woman-owned business subcontractor. You see our audit roles on this slide, but let me tell you a little bit more about each of us. I am Ann Sterner, a senior consulting actuary, and I am joined today by Tom Vicente and Ellen Kleinstuber, our chief actuary. Ellen is a last-minute substitution today for Jim Ritchie, who was scheduled to be here for the presentation, but has had a family emergency arise. In addition to being Bolton's chief actuary, Ellen is the president-elect of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries. I have been providing actuarial consulting services for over 30 years and specialize in public sector plans. I am the actuary for many of Bolton's largest actuarial valuation clients. Outside of Bolton, I serve on the Society of Actuaries Retirement Research Committee. Tom Vicente has over 30 years of experience as well and leads our public sector practice. He has performed 5 actuarial audits in the past 2 years. Tom is the vice chair of the Society of Actuaries Social Insurance and Finance Committee. He's a member of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries Public Plans Community and a member of the American Academy of Actuaries Public Plans Committee. Like Tom and I, Jim also has over 30 years of experience providing actuarial consulting services. Jim is the president of Bolton Retirement and has led 4 actuarial audits in the past 2 years. He is a member of the pension committee of the American Academy of Actuaries. In addition to Tom, Jim, and me, our team includes Tom Lohman, who will provide peer review of our work. Tom has 40 years of actuarial experience, is the former chair of the Academy Public Plans Committee, and is recognized as one of the top national experts on public sector plans. Tom led our audit of the Employees Retirement System of Texas in 2017. And finally, Adrienne Ostroff of Athena Actuarial Consulting will bring her strong technical actuarial expertise to this assignment. Adrienne has over 8 years of experience and has performed annual actuarial reviews for large public safety retirement plans, including the cities of Dallas and Atlanta. The remainder of this presentation will provide you with further information about Bolton and our actuarial audit experience. We will also describe the services we will provide to you and our audit approach. I will now pass it over to Ellen for slide 3.
Thanks, Ann, and thank you to all the members of the board for letting me be here and pinch hit for Jim today. Jim's a UT Austin grad, and we involve him in all of our Texas client engagements, and I know he wished he could be here with you. The actual services that Bolton offers fall into 3 main categories, starting with our annual evaluation services. We provide these services to 85 pension and about 150 OPEB plans, plus numerous LOSAP plans such as yours. This gives us some really great insights into how you present valuation results as useful and actionable information that's going to empower plan sponsors to make informed decisions on how to manage their plans. And we support our clients with different types of project-based work that assists them with long-term financial planning, asset allocation studies, assessing risk through stress testing and other quantitative measures, and identifying opportunities for how they can improve the long-term solvency and sustainability of their plans. And one of our particular areas of expertise is performing actuarial audit work, like the services you're requesting. Having the plan's actuarial evaluation audited every few years is a really great opportunity to get a fresh set of eyes on the valuation results. It both validates that the results are a reasonable measure of the plan's assets and liabilities, and it allows for continual process improvement as you benefit from the perspective of an independent actuary. All pension actuaries have a uniform set of standards that we're bound to follow in our practice, but we also each have our own unique perspective. And Bolton's perspective is one that's been valued by the market in this area. We've been engaged to perform more than 35 actuarial audits over the last 5 years, including some of the largest retirement systems in the country. So I'm going to hand things over to Tom now to tell you about a few of those engagements and talk about our audit process.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Alan, and good morning to everybody. Really glad to see you on Zoom, at least today, and hopefully going forward, we actually be able to be in the same room sometime in the near future. Just to follow up on Ellen's comments, we've worked really hard to make ourselves the auditor of choice when it comes to these types of actuarial engagements. And we've done that by trying to show value and showing value by being accurate, by being timely, and making recommendations that make sense and help improve the overall work product of the incumbent actuary and the value that they provide to the entity having the evaluations done. One way we've been able to validate that our approach is working is that when you look at this slide with these nice logos, a number of them are multiple iterations. So New York City, for example, we actually did 2 rounds of audits for them. So they hired us for the first round. They liked what happened and how it was done. And so they brought us back for a second round. The same with California, the same with the state of Maryland. So multiple valuations, think have really validated our process, and our approach resonates with our clients and they're getting value from it. So much for the overview. So the big question then is how do we do this? So if we can move to the next slide, we can get into a little more detail into what we're doing. Thank you. So the goal of our audit is to make sure that we give you a comprehensive report that has a firm opinion on the current state of affairs with the plan and the actual evaluation, as well as any recommendations that we might have. We're not going to be wishy-washy about things. We want to make sure everything is very clear that we provide. As Ann mentioned, we've assigned senior members to oversee the plan. And you might say, gee, that seems like a lot of senior people for an audit. But when you look at this slide, you see we actually have 3 tracks that we go through. And each of those tracks has a senior member assigned to make sure that it's being completed at the highest level. When we get started with you, we'll have initial kickoff with whoever you designate the proper contacts are, and we'll establish what the regular schedule of updates and check-ins should be. For some of our engagements, we talk weekly. Others, it's bi-weekly or even monthly. Depends on what's going on and the style of the different organizations. We can accommodate any of that. And with the number of senior people, we can accommodate schedules as well. So maybe just now dive into some of the details here. So you'll see the 3 prongs. First one's the assumptions. So we're really going to look at what's going on, what's being assumed here. You have an experience study that was done recently. We're going to look at that and make sure that that can be looked at appropriately. And that it's being followed through. We're going to look at the data quality, look at the standards of practice from the actuaries, the Actuarial Standards Board, as well as the Texas Review Board and any Texas rules and regulations. On top of that, we're going to look at what's coming out in the future to make recommendations for things that might come up. One thing we've seen in a number of our audits is that when new standards or new things come into play, sometimes it takes a year or 2 for those to make it into reports. And we think by providing an update to you now, we can help make sure that you don't have that lag. Prong 2, looking at the report. So this is where things get really technical there. Make sure it's accurate, make sure make sure we're evaluating the methods of working and having the right effect on the plan. So is the smoothing approach from the actual value of assets working appropriately? Are there any areas of concern, areas of risk? And we'll explore that with you in our kickoff call and our touch bases about anything that you may be particularly concerned about making sure is validated over and above just the overall results. A lot of times we'll find areas to improve communications and disclosures. Prong 3, where things really get really technical, testing individual samples to make sure that they match. Just make sure that the plan's being valued, the plan features being valued, and the assumptions that are disclosed are being used. A lot of times what we'll find in some cases, especially where there's no long-term actuary, is that the plan actuary may have made assumptions or loads to value certain features, and we want to make sure we get those straightened out. So with that, why don't we take a step back and move to the last slide, if we could, and talk about why Bolton. And I think hopefully in this very brief presentation, we've helped you see that we have an experienced dynamic team whose focus is on audits. So we have an audit mindset, not a valuation mindset. We are fully independent from you and from Texas TESRS and the entire Texas retirement system. That's something we really strive to maintain, that complete independence. We're not trying to create any sort of gotchas for the current actuary. We're looking to identify areas where we can make improvements to the plan. We want to make sure when we're done that you have a strong comfort level, that we've turned over all the stones and that we've seen what's there, and that we've relayed that back to you in a way that gives you a strong comfort level that things are going well and are poised for success in the future. With that, let me turn it back over to Ann.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ellen. And thank you to the board for allowing us to present. With that, we will allow time for questions and answers. If you would like me to, I can stop sharing my screen if you would like to see all of the participants more easily.
Yes, if you could please do that. Okay, so are there any questions from the board members for Tom, Ann, or Ellen? No. Okay, there being none, Tom, Ann, and Ellen, I'd like to thank you for your presentation to the board of directors, or trustees, I should say.
Great. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 6, the actuarial audit contract award. You've heard a presentation by GRS and by Bolton Partners. Would anybody like to entertain a motion to award a contract?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we would go with GRS, which is Gabriel, Roeder, and Smith. And as we, the board, our committee talked, is they have extensive Texas experience. Bolton's obviously very qualified, but I think with GRS Texas experience, really is familiar with all the nuances, I would say, with the Texas system, that would be the strongest candidate for this audit.
Shirley, we need a little more, Ed, I think we need a little more formal motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that Gabriel, Roeder, and Smith be awarded the actual audit contract.
Jenny, did you have a comment, Jenny?
Ed is part of the committee that was looking at this, and he made a statement as to what the recommendation of his committee was, which he did.
Right. Okay.
I couldn't hear.
I could not hear.
I believe Jenny said that was the recommendation of your committee. Ed?
Yes, it was a recommendation.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Matt Glaves. I'll second the motion from the committee for GRS.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Ed and a second by Matt, is there any discussion?
Yes, I have some questions. What was the difference in the contract price between the two?
For GRS, it was 28,000, and for Bolton, I believe it was 30,000. So, I mean, they were close, but GRS was cheaper.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed by nay. Shayna, can you take a roll call?
Nathan Douglas,
Aye.
Matt Glaves,
Aye.
Edward Keenan,
Aye.
Jerry Romero,
Aye.
Rodney Riles,
Aye.
Stephanie Wagner,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rodriguez. 6 board members are in favor and 0 are opposed.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 8. It's is it Lauterbach and Amen LLP Investment Accounting Service Contract Extension. Wayne, can you walk us through this one?
Good morning. Yes, our investment accounting services are actually performed by Lauterbach and Amen, and their contract expires the end of this fiscal year. So we are asking that they be extended for an additional year before we have to put it out for an RFP. And I have asked Steve Earnhardt with Lauterbach to present. With that, I will turn it over to Steve.
Thanks, Wayne. I was hoping I could get, I'm in 2 separate logins. So my other one is on my computer and I'm still in the waiting room in that one. Okay. And then I'll just need access to be able to share my screen. So we'll see if I can. Still don't seem to have access. While I'm waiting for that, Lindsay Rappaport is also on this engagement with us. So I wanted to make sure you could be introduced to her. Lindsay?
Hi, I'm Lindsay Rappaport. I've been with LNA 5.5 years now, and I'm a staff accountant that works closely with Wayne, does their monthly investment accounting, and then also worked very closely with Wayne again on the year-end process.
So I still don't seem to have access, but I'll just go through quickly my presentation. I don't want to delay anything. Hopefully you have it in your board packets. A little bit about Lauterbach and Amen is we're basically a full service accounting and pension services firm. So we have actuarial services, audit services, financial services, obviously pension services, and we do offer a little bit of tax work. We have a tax department more so just to be able to provide our clients with that service if they need it, not as a main driver of our business in general. About 95% plus of our total client deck is governmental. So we have our financial services where we're actually finance staff within a municipality. That's half of our firm's services is that, and then audit assurance. So we do audits of municipalities by the hundreds, different entities, pension funds, municipalities, libraries, you name it. We have about 175 employees in our firm, 5 partners, I think about 15 to 20 in our leadership team. So we're really experienced in the governmental sector, and that is really our niche. So I wanted to go over some of the services that we do provide for TESRS. So as Wayne said, monthly accounting services. So we're helping to reconcile the Bank of Texas with MIP and USAS, regular communications with Wayne on questions that we might have of activity that we see, and then obviously creating the entries that are then released and posted to your various systems. We provide those entries to Wayne for review and approval, and once he does sign off on those, they get released. And then the other piece of our work is the annual compliance reporting for the AFR, being the web application process of certifying everything up into the web application, issuing or being part of the process of creating the comptroller's report, and then obviously helping out with your audited financials. So, I kind of, in the presentation, we go through some of the steps in the process. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we are providing all of the kind of the work necessary to help Wayne get all those tasks accomplished. So from, reconciling the Bank of Texas and USAS and MIP, as I said, creating and preparing all the schedules within the comptroller's report and the audit report to then go to your auditors to ultimately be audited. We help with the communications with them. And then we move forward each year with just overall trying to meet all the deadlines and making sure that everything is ticking and tying between all of the systems and all the people that are providing services to your fund. So with that, that's kind of the broad scope of what we do for you on a regular basis and then on an annual basis. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on our work, our process. Obviously, we work closely with Wayne, and we really appreciate Wayne and all of his support and assistance. And he's just a joy to work with in general. So again, happy to answer any questions you might have of us.
Are there any questions for Stephen and Lindsay from the board members? Okay, Stephen, Lindsay, thank you very much for your presentation and describing to us the services you provide the agency. Yeah. Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board? Anyone like to entertain a motion?
This is Jared Ahmed. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the account services, the contract extension for Lauterbach and Amen LLP.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Jerry, second by Ed. Is there any discussion? Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed by nay. Shayna, can you take a roll call?
Nathan Douglas,
Douglas, aye.
Matt Glaves,
Aye.
Edward Keenan,
Aye.
Jerry Romero,
Aye.
Rodney Riles,
Aye.
Stephanie Wagner,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rodriguez. 6 board members are in favor of the motion and 0 are opposed.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, Denim LLC Cybersecurity Consultant Contract Extension. Charlie or Jessica, can you walk us through this one?
Shirley, you're muted.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Jessica, would you like to introduce Denim? I'll go ahead and proceed then. I think, do we have Denim in the waiting room, Jessica, Scott? They'll do a presentation for their extension. We would be renewing their contract for a 3-year period. I see that Matt Snyder has joined us. Matt, will you need to share your screen?
I can, yeah. I believe our presentation is in the board books, but I'll go ahead and share if that's easier for everyone. Or if not, then we can do it verbally. I'm okay either way.
Jessica or Scott, can you give him the screen share?
Okay, yep, and I think I've got it. I'll go ahead and give it a try, please. And everyone let me know if you can see the slide deck, if you would, please.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, welcome. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to speak with us. We really appreciate it, and of course, hope everyone is doing okay after last week. I think we all learned some lessons around, disaster recovery, resiliency, and all that sort of stuff. So, hope everybody is doing okay. So from the Denham perspective, we're going to talk a little bit about the current threat landscape, and then we'll talk about what we're doing today for TESRS very briefly, and then we'll talk in a little more detail about the extension in the next 3 years and our plans going forward to help reduce risk for the agency. So the state of the threat landscape is bad. It's bad and getting worse, right? We've had huge attacks on big vendors, FireEye and SolarWinds. Just to put it in context, the SolarWinds was a deal where, imagine if you updated your computer, like Windows Update, I go to the internet and I'm going to get a Windows Update, and there's actually viruses in that update, right? In the official update. That's a pretty significant issue, right? So ransomware is still on the rise, and that's something that we are carefully planning for as well at TESRS. The new trend is, rather than just encrypting data, what the attackers are doing is saying, give me some money or I'll just release your data on the internet, right? Sensitive data. So it's just getting really worse. There were a couple other really interesting things that happened lately. There was a water system in Florida that was hacked, and essentially the work was to try and poison the water. So that's really scary, right? We're not even talking about money or retirees anymore. Very scary stuff. And so hopefully, again, that's part of why security needs to remain vigilant, why we need to stay on top of these things. And then again, just lots of vulnerabilities. I think in February, Microsoft released 11 critical vulnerabilities in 1 month. So that's a lot. It's usually 2 or 3. So what we're seeing is attackers are getting the upper hand, and it's even more important that we remain vigilant in order to protect the agency and the board, and of course the retirees, which is our ultimate goal. The team is Shirley. We've really enjoyed working with Shirley, and of course, as you know, we work very closely with Jessica and have for the last 3 years. And of course, we're also here to serve the board, right? The board can provide oversight and strategic guidance, but we are also here to help you understand the risks and provide appropriate stewardship and guidance, right? So for the rest of this year, going now through August, just very briefly, we'll cover, we're going to have to do our training again, right? Training is important. We got to stay vigilant, so we remind folks all the time. We've got some annual updates, and security is a process. It's cyclical, right? It's like plan, do, check, act, or any of those methodologies. You have to keep sharpening the saw. We have to keep looking at the situation. New risks emerge all the time, and so it's important that we look at our annual IT risk assessment. And the key with the assessment, it's not just to get to find out what's wrong, it's to make recommendations, right? And then we go back and update it to see have we implemented those recommendations. From a vendor perspective, the vendor situation has changed a little bit. So we're going to work with those new vendors and some of the existing vendors to make sure we're managing risk. The easiest thing to keep in mind from a vendor perspective is, you inherit the vulnerabilities of your suppliers, right? If your suppliers and vendors are not secure, that creates risk for TESRS. So we're going to work with those folks to try and mitigate that as much as we can. And then again, documentation updates, it's important to continue to increase maturity. 3 years ago when we started, there were different vendors, there was a different threat landscape. 3 years from now, when hopefully we are still helping you folks, there might be a different threat landscape. Almost certainly there will be. It's kind of like a sports team, right? We have to keep practicing. We have to keep doing drills and keeping ourselves ready, essentially. So a few more projects for the rest of this year. Again, penetration testing is simulating an external attack. So we put the hat on of the external attacker, and then what we're going to do is try to determine if the systems are susceptible to attack in order to patch them, right? In order to fix them, basically. Backup and restore is the #1 defense against ransomware. It's really important to have good, solid copies of your data. And so that's something we just need to continue to check on. In terms of account modification and account addition, that's a very common fraud tactic. And so not that there's any specific risk today in that area, but this is something we need to continue to look at and make sure our processes stay in line with the threat landscape, right? And then, of course, keeping the board apprised. We will continue to do that throughout our tenure here at TESRS, and on a monthly basis, bi-monthly, or even more frequently if needed. We are here to serve the board in any way that we can. So to look at the timeline, we started in 2018, and I'm not sure if anyone remembers, but I remember it very well because my first presentation was actually on crutches with a broken ankle, and it was kind of an unusual deal for me. But you know, it feels like 10 years ago, right? From an information security perspective, the cybersecurity world has changed quite a bit, and risk is really really increasing. In the last few years, we've provided significant reduction in risk to testers in many key areas, both unplanned and, planned and unplanned and reactive, right? That's part of the key is we build plans with testers, we address risk over time, but we're also available if something bad happens, right? That's one of the real keys to the Denim relationship. Is that, you know, because we have a retainer relationship, I'm able to bring resources to bear from anywhere in our company, right? And we've got lots of very, very smart, talented people that we can draw on. So we're bringing increased awareness of risk areas, both from training and then from day-to-day work. We've helped improve processes to manage that risk. We've given strategic and tactical guidance, and then flexibility, of course, right, to be able to react to situations. And so everyone knows the key point of this slide is every year is a new planning cycle, right? When we started in 2018, we made a plan. Got to 2019, we need to revise that plan because risks change. Get to 2020, we need to revise the plan again. 21, 22, 23, we'll just keep doing that. We've got to keep looking for the latest things and also measuring our progress over time to make sure we're improving our abilities to respond to risk. So for phase two, which would be the next 3 years, there won't be any changes to the level of effort or to the hourly rate. We discussed it with Kevin and with Shirley and Jessica, and everyone agrees that the level of effort is about on point right now. And of course, the rate is governed by DIR, so no changes there. And in general, the theme of the next few years is there are things we must do. Those are regulatory. And then there are things we really need to do, managing risk and improving processes. And again, the key is demonstrable improvement, right? We want to standardize the program so we can show we're moving forward over time. That's what we owe the board and also DIR and ultimately the retirees, right, is to improve our processes over time. And then, of course, we have on-demand assistance for emerging risks. You know, one thing to think about is, you know, what's the next thing, right? In 3 years from now, we'll probably have lots of new trends. There's additional cloud, there's probably more privacy laws and lots of things like that. So that's why we're always looking forward. And that's also why it's really important to replan once a year, sometimes more frequently if there's a sentinel event of some type. So what do we plan to do for the next 3 years? Again, stewardship and reporting to the board. We help inform the board. And again, that's part of our responsibility to serve TESRS and to serve the board, and then also ultimately to serve the retirees. We would love to hear at some point, you know, what more the board might be interested in. What aspects of security are you worried about? Is there anything that's on your mind? And we could talk about that in future sessions. And also just want to make sure we've got the right cadence. Are we getting you the updates that you need? Are they timely? Are they relevant? Do you need more or less information from us? We're here to help and to react to whatever your needs are, essentially. Again, we talked about there are things we just have to do, right? These are regulatory items. And so the IRDR is what used to be an annual process. Now it's gone to every 2 years. I'm not sure if that's pandemic related or just a DIR thing, but essentially that's a big assessment where we measure our maturity against objective standards that DIR prints. So we say, how good are we at risk management? How good are we at incident response? That sort of stuff. And we want to measure ourselves, report to DIR, and then continue to improve that over time. We talked a little bit about IT risk assessment and vendor risk assessments, right? Those are required pieces because they're really important to make sure we know where our risk is. And then training is always important to keep things top of mind, right? There's a reason that DIR requires everyone to be trained once a year because it's important. You know, we have to stay vigilant, and over time, sometimes it's hard to keep those things top of mind. So the real value where Denim comes to bear, I think, is in annual risk reduction, right? This is where we can use our expertise and we can develop security plans and processes on behalf of TESRS to reduce risk over time. So we focus on areas with a high likelihood or a high impact or a high likelihood and impact, expect, right? It's likely to happen, and if it happens, it's kind of bad. Ransomware, things like that. So that's one of the focus areas we have. We also will continue to keep tabs on vendors, right? TESRS, from an IT perspective, has a lot of kind of outsourcing, and so that's important that we keep tab on those folks. We'll have to keep doing pen testing. You know, attack simulation is a snapshot. You do it today, and the attack profile may look different tomorrow. So we need to keep doing that as well. And then again, incremental improvements in infrastructure, right? It's really important that we keep moving forward. We don't have to be perfect. We need to balance security with usability, but we need to keep moving forward in every case and keep improving our capabilities. And then, you know, looking forward in the next few years, it seems likely there's going to be additional privacy legislation. Could come at the federal level, could come at the state level. TESRS has, you know, does manage the privacy of retiree information today, but those additional legislation requirements may require us to do additional work in the future. So again, finally, from the last piece that we can offer is on-demand services, right? If something bad happens, Jessica picks up the phone and calls me, and we marshal the resources and we get over there to help you folks, right? And that's one of the real keys, is we can be strategic and tactical, and we can always also be very responsive to your needs. And this is, you know, has come to bear several times. We've had some attacks, some issues, technical issues that we were able to kind of come out on a Friday afternoon and help folks resolve. And so we're happy to be able to do that. You know, we take a lot of pride in our partnership with TESRS. We feel like the TESRS mission is a very noble mission, and we really enjoy supporting you in that mission. Absolutely. So again, our job is to inform, and we want to make sure you know what's happening. And you know, one other thing is another reason we need to stay really vigilant is there's been a trend over the last few years toward attacking smaller and smaller businesses, right? It used to be the Chase Banks of the world. It used to be places like that. But what attackers are realizing is there is opportunity at a lower level, right? And you can steal one car for $100,000, or you can steal 10 cars for $10,000, and you might end up making the same amount of money, right? So that's kind of what's happening. In addition, smaller businesses and organizations don't always have as much money for security. So it presents some opportunities as well. So we need to stay very, very vigilant, work closely with TESRS, work closely with the board and with Jessica and Shirley to make sure that we're planning for and reducing risk on a regular basis. So again, it's been a pleasure to work with you all the last 3 years. We're very excited about hopefully looking forward for another 3 years. TESRS is one of our favorite clients, again, because of the mission, but also just the folks are very pleasant to work with. And we feel like we can make a lot of difference and really help you folks protect the retirees. So at that point, I'll pause. Does anyone have any questions? Anything else you're curious about from the Denim side?
Are there any questions for Matt from the board? Okay, being none. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate everyone's time. Take care.
Okay, so is there anyone want to entertain a motion to approve a 3-year contract extension with Denim?
I'll make that motion, Pilar, so we extend Denim's contract.
Is there a second?
Nathan Douglas, second.
Okay, we got a motion by Ed and a second by Nathan. Any discussion? Okay. No discussion, call for the question. All those in favor signify by aye. All those opposed same signify by nay. Shayna, can you take a roll call?
Nathan Douglas,
Nathan Douglas, aye.
Matt Glaves,
Aye.
Ed Keenan,
Aye.
Jerry Romero. It looks like Jerry has left the meeting at 10:16.
We still have quorum, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Rodney Riles,
Aye.
Stephanie Wagner,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rodriguez. 5 board members are in favor of the motion and 0 are opposed.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Executive Director Hiring Committee report. Madam Chair, you want to take a stab at it? See if we can, if not, I'll try to give them a report.
I'll try to do the report as best I can, as long as it holds up. As of this morning, we have 14 applicants. The committee has set a date for us to get together and go through the applicants and bring 2 to 3 people at a special meeting on the 17th because we bumped up, since we've moved everything a week, we're hoping this is the schedule that we'll be able to stick with. Have a special meeting on the 17th, closed session with the board to interview and make a decision on hiring and bring that, make a decision on the 17th with the board meeting following on the 18th, possibly hire then, or if we have to, we can bounce it to April. That is the plan at this point. We did extend the deadline for applicants to have an opportunity because of this ice storm. The committee decided that we needed to go ahead and just give everybody a fair chance and extend the application process a week. So that has bounced us for another week. We're doing the best that we can, and we will bring you the best candidates that are out there. Any questions about the timeline or process?
Nathan Douglas, no questions,
None?
but please put out the dates as soon as you can. I wasn't able to write them down, so I can get them in the calendar.
Nathan, it's looking like March 17th and March 18th. March 18th, 17th will be executive session to discuss the candidates, and then I think March 18th for an official hire. Okay. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Next item is any future agenda items and meeting dates. And so it sounds like we're going to have a special board meeting on March the 17th and a regular board meeting on March the 18th. Is that correct, Shirley?
Yes, the March 18th meeting, we had postponed John's fourth quarter report to March. He normally would have presented that in February, but so we'll have John's report. We'll have my report or the executive director's report on administrative and financial activities of the system. We'll have another update on our work with departments for compliance. Wayne will give you a budget report, and of course you would have your decision regarding the executive director position. And we'll keep this list and add to it if we find other items that we need to pick up from the last couple of meetings. But I think that's what March is looking like.
Thank you, Shirley. There being no other business for the board to consider, could I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. We'll see you all on the 17th.
Thank you, Pilar.
Thank you.